I'm a basic guy that lived a very non-basic life, but didn't realize it until the tail end. I realized that for a very long time, I was being deceived by a lot of people in many circumstances. But it took years of going down a path to have the wherewithal to make the connections, to look back and what I call reframe my memories. So now that I see things in a different light, I'm recommunicating to the world what actually occurred to me now that I'm getting a greater understanding. And that understanding has an impact on their lives, which is why I'm communicating it. Because the places that I've worked, the people that I've met, and the systems that exist on this planet are negatively impacting the people of this entire planet. The people of this planet have no idea the level of nefarious technology that exists for them to consider as a problem in their day. So they don't even get to make a decision about how it impacts them because they don't even know it exists. It's plausible deniability 101. If people don't know that technology exists, then that also means the corporations can use it unregulated. Secrecy is power, first and foremost. So that's the easiest thing in the world. The secrecy is because if you know, they lose power. So that's the easiest thing in the world to answer. Secrecy is about power. It's control. What's your next question?
What is the secrecy?
That there are technologies on this planet, such as the ice cube neutrino detector at the South Pole Station, that can also do things beyond what their dispensation paperwork says. So beyond what they're written to do, these items have secondary, tertiary, and other abilities when you add them to other components around the planet. They are a system in and of itself that is multifaceted, both positive as presented for the benefit of science, but then as also not presented in a multitude of other ways that are nefarious as an individual system. And then you can take these systems and utilize them as cogs in a greater machine for other systems around the world when they integrate. These are directed energy weapons, platforms, systems, whatever you want to call them. And everything on the list of possible nefarious activities is on the list. So it's like Occam's razor. When people say, well, what can these things do? Everything. They can do everything bad until you can utilize Occam's razor, slice off things and say, nope, this wasn't a thing to be concerned about. So until people actually understand what directed energy weapons are entirely, they shouldn't discount them in the slightest. It's a weapon system you're currently unfamiliar with. I mean, to the world. I'm saying vaguely to the world. You know, most people don't know these things. Yeah, this is a common problem in society. You're identifying reality as it exists. Yep, you have your perspective, and then there's other perspectives for sure. The contemporary problem is that people seem to have lost their ability to discern which other reality bubbles are true or not, and that's on the individual. Because that reality always exists. Discernment is always required. If you lose it, you'll be confused and reality will move on. All the Antarctic researchers that have been around for decades seem to be unable to find all the people that go to Antarctica every year that would be willing to speak openly on the topic, but instead they have charlatans and snake oil salesmen that won't come out of the shadows and say who they actually are or provide any tangible proof for any of their spectacular statements. I mean, I've come out of the shadows and said that there's a mind control device at the South Pole Station, but the difference is that I've said my name and I've provided proof.
Here, yes.
So compared to everybody else in this conversation, I would ask you, sir, why do you think anybody else gives credence to these charlatans and snake oil salesmen?
But I'm going to tell you right now, I have talked to some pretty heavy hitters in the mainstream.
Do they speak of their own direct firsthand experience or provide proof thereof? Or are they just regurgitating information from somewhere else that's outside of them and their experience? For 2 years now, I've been saying, I've been to the South Pole Station and the world needs to be very cautious about technologies. that exist. And for 2 years, I've had the researchers slamming doors in my face saying UFOs, 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 it's all about UFOs and blah, blah, blah. And whatever their storyline is, they want me to support their storyline versus them listening to my experience, them as researchers. So this is what happens to me when I actually speak to the vast majority of the supposedly big name researchers. This is the dilemma that I come across, is that I explain to them my experience and then they go, well, so and so said this. Like, what does that have to do with anything that just came out of my mouth?
Right.
I'm not here to support what they're saying. I'm here to present my experience. I have no idea what their experience is. From what you're telling me, it actually sounds like malarkey, but I bet you don't want to hear me say that. Alaska Triangle, Season 2, Episode 9, The Mysteries of Ketchikan. They brought me out to go search for underwater submerged, unidentified submerged objects, USOs, unidentified submerged objects, and or underwater base, whether local or off-world type stuff. But they were looking for stuff underwater, and they wanted to know if my background provided for that. And I said, yeah, absolutely, let's do this. So I worked with the production crew for a while to get it all dialed in, get it figured out. I wind up going out there, and as the TV show presents some of the video, right? This is the power of the edit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, everything they showed you video of occurred, right? They have some video of it. What they did was omit the rest of what we found. So the idea was for me to go out and utilizing hydrophones to listen under the water and see what we can find. So yes, there were areas that we first investigated where I was like, hey, I don't hear anything. I'm not finding anything. Let's go to another spot. And we kept doing that until I found stuff. Right? But they just,
right?
lo and behold, they left that part out of the show, right? So the part of the show they left in was like, oh, gee, I can't find anything. So then they took the sound that they had where I was like, oh, I can't hear anything. It's just biologic sounds, right? They took that sound to a sound expert, and then that expert did a whole show on what they found, right? Blah, blah, blah. I wasn't present for that. That's production, right? The reality is that I absolutely found acoustics underneath. At the time of production, everybody was flipping out because they're like, yeah, we found exactly what we're looking for. It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
There was no doubt in anybody's mind, right? I had the captain of the boat. I gave him the headset. We all listened to it. The camera guy everybody heard everything. Clear as day. Didn't need a sound expert whatsoever. I found it. They never put it on the show. It's just as simple as that. Folks, everybody out there, you're being lied to from every single direction constantly. I know, I've looked. I've been to the Antarctic. I've been to the Arctic. I've worked for research facilities. I work for government contractors. I've been on TV shows. Guess what? Everywhere I look, everyone's lying to you about everything. 6 ways from Sunday, you have no clue what's going on. Oh, guess what? The technology is about 1,000 years ahead of where your brain can even consider. And guess what? Your brain's mush because there's mind control weapons that have been around for 20 years. You're crazy as a loon because look at what you and all your friends did for the last 2 years as you bent over and took it from every agency that said take it.
We all have, though, Eric. That's the problem.
No, not me.
Well, the majority.
That's the point of what I just said. Is everybody in the whole world is operating under mind control right now.
Yeah.
You're all in some hive mind, and you don't even know it. Everyone's going to get flipped out. Oh, we're not mind controlled. I have free will. Really? I don't see where free will was applied in the last 2 years.
I don't know what your take on AI is.
It's a horror show.
It's a horror show?
Yep. There's no such thing as artificial intelligence. There's only artificial intellect. And that's the difference between a book and a person. You can put a whole bunch of knowledge in a book, but that's not experience. So just because something can reference that book very fast and pull facts out doesn't make it intelligent. It still lacks the experience. So there's only artificial intellect. There's no such thing as artificial intelligence. As much as we like to recreate the human mind, we're not going to do it. It's awesome. It's the best, and no computer can compare as much as any producer would like to make you the commercial and sell you the product that says the contrary of what I just said.
So you don't think AI exists?
I think it's garbage. I think if you put my brain against AI, I'd win. Because I'm a human being and I'm fully functional, and an AI is a lame attempt at recreating what I am. I think AI has been around for decades, and it's integrated into every level of our society. This is part of the problem. So let's get to the human beings that have the intention. Who are the human beings that have the intention, that have the control over all of us, so that we don't actually have the free will to do the things that we thought that we could? So that's what's going on.
The controller. So we're talking puppet masters. Those that are.
That's all I'm saying. For the last 2 years, people had masks on. I would say not because they wanted to, but because someone else wanted them to. Is that so hard to swallow? Is that a truth pill that everybody's ready to take? None of you actually wanted to wear masks for 2 years. You got bamboozled. Admit it. And now what? Those same people still exist. You didn't catch them. And guess what they're going to do next? Try to get you again.
White hats, black hats, Eric. Do they exist?
In so many factions. What about them?
What is the camaraderie? What is the connection point here in between the white hats, the black hats?
The connection point is these are terms used in the mass media to lead people by the nose contemporarily. That's all they are right now. Unless anybody else can change my mind, because there's no evidence of anything otherwise. They're just terms to sway people's ideas and to keep them lethargic on their couches. Because when everybody gets concerned about what the black hats are doing, somebody will invest a lot of money into the mass media and say, the white hats are doing well. Sit down and calm down.
But do we truly know the enemy, or is that the face of
No, you don't know the enemy temporarily, because welcome back to the conversation of directed energy weapons warfare. Where is the front line contemporarily in this modern warfare where we don't even know how to identify the weapons? And that in and of itself is a confusion tactic. Nobody even knows, A, they're under attack, B, who the enemy is, or C, where the front line is. So welcome to modern warfare, folks. You're totally getting your asses handed to you. UFO stuff, flying saucers, UAPs. This is just technology that's been around in the cosmos for thousands of years, millennium. We're just becoming privy to it, folks. Gravity existed, flight existed, the plausibility of all these things. Just because in the 1700s they didn't find it yet didn't mean it wasn't possible. It just means we weren't privy to it yet. So we're the children in the cosmos. There's a lot that's been going on for eons. And there's a lot of technology that's been going on this planet, unbeknownst to the majority, because the minority figured it out. And why would they share it with you?
Talk more about that.
Why would they share it with you, Matthew? I have anti-gravity. Why would I share it with you?
I'm not saying that you would or you wouldn't.
I am. That's what I'm asking. That's the question. If I have anti-gravity, you tell me why I should share it with you. I possess this knowledge. I have this ability. I have a ship that I can take off this planet and through the cosmos. Why should I tell you about that? That's all that's going on. So other people have figured things out before other people, and they're not sharing, and they've had it for many decades. It's called a breakaway civilization. There's stuff going on off of this planet. There's plenty of researchers like Joseph P. Farrell, Michael Schratt, that have followed the paper trail for this stuff. We've been doing things off of this planet, and by we, I mean humanity, but not as a collective, as a elite minority. So the rest of us have been basically suffering as a collective resource for these planet who are now funneling things on and off planet. Call them import-export controllers. That's all. It's just business. And why would they let you in on it? Why would they let you all in on this? If I come up with an anti-gravity machine, just simply to run cargo, and I can go to other planets and start moving materials back and forth, and I can start being in charge. I mean, this is just mafia stuff, effectively. I'm in charge of all the product that comes off of this planet. Hey, yo, forget about it. I'm now in charge, right? That's how life works. Why would I share that with anyone? I wouldn't. Now, people would fight and die for that technology, because that's also been going on, because this stuff has been around for decades, and loose lips do sink ships collectively, is the saying. But through the years, people have talked, and now many factions have these technologies unbeknownst to you, the general public, and they are at battle with things that you can't comprehend. Directed energy weapons setting fire to other people's countries, causing earthquakes, causing storms, mind control manipulation devices, everything on the list. Again, Occam's razor. Everything that you can think of until proven otherwise is what these devices can do. And I think there's a whole lot of factions that are willing to fight to their own personal success and lay waste to the planet in the process. They don't care. Just like you said, they don't care about you. They don't care about me. All they care about is the almighty dollar, whatever you want to call it, here, off planet, whatever. It's power and it's control and it's manipulation of resources. Our planet is a massive resource in the cosmos. That's a cold, hard fact. Who's profiteering from these resources is always a question on both the micro and the macro. We have no lack of resources on this planet, folks. There's no reason for anybody to be starving. Global warming is a negligible impact on the face of this earth and the people thereof if we were properly managed. But since we have all of the resources in the world and all of the woes that we witness every day, I will assure you, you're not going to convince me that we're anything less than mismanaged. Well, I mean, I serviced the ice cube neutrino detector darn near every single day that I was there. So I was certainly familiar with the facility, and it was absolutely running from the time that I was there. I mean, my crew, we were present for the construction phase to where it converted for operations and maintenance. So it was certainly operating when I was there. And I've certainly communicated to the world that the device is not just a passive receiver. It also has the capacity to function as a directed energy weapons system, which at the very least can cause earthquakes, and then B, an interstellar communications device so that we can have near instantaneous communications at great distance, which is the first problem we have when we have off-world civilizations moving outwardly at light speed. Comms becomes an issue rapidly.
So what he just said, folks, is we are definitely not alone in the cosmos. That's what we're
out in them.
All right.
We're out in them, and the South Pole Station is how we communicate with our fleet. Lest we forget that there is a man from Europe that not too long ago hacked into NASA's computers and found the list of off-world fleet captains. I believe his last name was McKinnon. The U.S. has been trying to extradite him for quite some time because of this. So we have a list of off-world captains for an off-world fleet. I worked at a facility where I'm telling you I found the information. It's documented and available in the archives at deciphering.tv, folks. So this is an interstellar communications device because we are out in the universe. That much I know. I believe it's because there's other people out there as well, because I certainly don't think our knuckleheads figured it out first. I don't think humanity figured this out. I think we came across stuff, just like we came across flight, right? Did flight never exist before? You know, is it possible that even in antiquity, life cycles on this planet have come and gone so many times that maybe in our past, there was a version of us that's even more advanced than we could consider right now? I mean, these are things that are all very possible. There's signs of it all over this planet. It's programming by different technology. Contemporarily, we're all concerned about how they're going to program us with the new technology. Folks, what do you think they were doing with books back in the day? You think at that time, in that context, that the powers that be weren't inculcating thoughts and systems and programs through literature, the
Sure.
most modern technology at the time?
Sure.
We've been getting played for a very long time. The power of the edit has always existed. The technologies just change. There's a lot to be said about these technologies being able to operate on what people would call the soul level or the energetic level, as nefarious as that would be. With this, you know, it's all it requires you to do is A, admit that there's that aspect to us, and then B, understand that it can be manipulated, just like every other system that we have.
Do they know of the human soul as well, and do they play on knowing that?
In the technologies contemporary that we call directed energy weapons systems that I'm trying to preach to the world, this is what they are attacking. They do know this. In the 50s, 60s, 70s, they had the MK Ultra programs and the Stargate programs that were working off of the information provided by Dr. Itzhak Bentov in a book called Stalking the Wild Pendulum on the Mechanics of Consciousness, alongside the information from the Monroe Institute by Robert Monroe. And they had what they called the Stargate program, and the express purpose of this was for the working with this energetic slash soul slash consciousness aspect of ourselves and the manipulation thereof. That's what's been going on since then, and boy have they mastered it, and boy are you folks out there a bunch of suckers contemporarily. They lead you by the nose every darn day. You got a cell phone on your hip 24/7, and you respond and react as directed. When it beeps, it blinks and flashes, you do what you've been programmed to do. We are losing this war. You have to get off your couch and get rid of the weaponized technology in your life. We're losing.
You really truly believe that we're losing?
You change my mind, sir. How are we winning? How do you define winning? This is how war works, right? Before you enter a war, you have to define what you're looking for as a win.
Mm-hmm.
This is how it works, right? So contemporarily, nobody has identified yet what's a win, but we're all being placated every day as armchair quarterbacks post facto about something that happened yesterday that we're supposed to be contented about. But nobody will tell me what's a win for tomorrow. What's the goal? At what point in time do I get to say, according to what everybody else is telling me, that the white hats have won? What's victory defined as? So that I can make sure that we're very clear, so that when that day comes, there's no mistaking it, that we can stop being concerned because we've won.
Oh man, Eric, you're diving deep, bro. And
right, because nobody wants to answer these questions, because nobody has the answers. They all want to be placated, but a win is a win is a win. And in every other situation, a win is defined and a goal is set forth. I would say step one is admitting we're losing. We have no idea what's going on. We're losing. We have no idea how to define what a win is. Boy, that's a state of confusion. If everybody involved in the conversation can't even define a win, I would say the mind control is doing well. Boy, are we dumb. The only purpose of money is for everybody out there to not have it. That's the purpose of it. It's not like the people that have the money need the money or need more money. If you pay really close attention to the processes of the planet, everything's really lucrative as systems. Mm-hmm. But if you pay close attention, you'll find that there's leeching systems that suck off of the efforts of humanity so that we just don't reap the benefit of the fruits of our labors. It's that simple.
Are you familiar with what's called loosh?
I am.
Do you think that that's what we are to them?
It's in addition to what I just said. The loosh is separate from the material resources. It's an energetic resource, but it's the same process. It's micro, macro, it's material, it's energetic. It's the same idea. It's just we're seeing it on many levels. This is what people have to understand, that the world is multifaceted. Yeah, your loosh is being stolen as well as the gold under your feet. It's everything. because the lies are so huge. It's basically like a big plate of lies for dinner, but it's so huge, it's undigestible. So people get halfway through the meal and they're like, I can't even finish this. And they push it away. And again, it's human nature. And our enemy knows this, which is why they can just lie and lie more and lie more, because good people would never consider that that's going on. That, you know, these people are doing these horrible things, but it turns out they'll do it in such exponential levels because it's also to their benefit and your detriment, because it's exhausting to try to figure out the depths to which our enemies are working against us. Welcome back to the fight and being placated when we can see that learning what's going on is exhausting. The responsibility thereof is taxing. So therefore ignorance is bliss. And our enemy is going to do everything in their power to maintain our mindset in that perspective. Oh, we're winning. Really? How? Gas is at what price? Your freedoms are being ripped away every week. You have nowhere near the freedoms that our founding fathers intended. And you're being taxed to the point that our founding fathers would have been shooting people in the face.
Ain't that no shit? That is no joke right there.
Where did boldness go in society? But this is a big plan that is above and beyond what most people are paying attention to, because they got Monday Night Football, they got a mortgage to pay. These are all control mechanisms. And what they used to say back in the day in Rome was bread and circuses. I get it. Everybody's got a mortgage to pay. I understand. You got kids to put in college, which is overpriced, and that was caused to occur anyhow. But these are all the machinations of society that are leeching off of the efforts of the labors of the people. It's keeping everybody down, and they don't see it. The only homogeneousness that we have in society is that there's an elite level keeping the rest of us down. And it's gotten to the point of the absurdity discrepancy being is that we have people on this planet that think that we have a lack of resources and that it's our fault. And there's other people that are flying around space selling all of the resources from our planet, laughing at us as they continue to make commercials blaming us as they sell our resources.
What kind of shit show is this, Eric?
I gather from my own research, and this is my research, it's nothing that I can prove. I don't buy at all anything that we were told about the moon. I think there's a lot to be said about it being a manufactured or hybridized item, that it's not wholly natural in any way, shape, or form.
It was David Wilcock that said that they had sent a bomb to the moon, hit it, and it rang like a bell.
They've done that multiple times, is my understanding. There's other peculiarities with the surface of it and the cratering and depth issues. There's all kinds of things about the moon that make it abnormal compared to every other body that we look at in the sky. It is a freak show of abnormalities. I don't think anybody is here for them to be saved by anybody else. I'll tell you that much. So everybody needs to get that mindset thrown right in the garbage. How about that? I don't think anybody was put on this planet for the express purpose to be saved by someone else. So hear that loud and clear, folks. Take the white hat stories and throw them out and save yourself. Yeah, because nobody wants to be responsible for themselves anymore, because we've been programmed not to. That's all that's happening right now.
Eric Fern here says, save ourselves from what? They've got all of the cool weapons. There is technology, okay, that is very plausible.
It's not plausible. It's active right now. There's no plausibility to this. Let's be extremely clear. I'm not discussing plausibility. The system's up and running since 2010. This is the severity of the situation that I'm trying to emphasize. It's not a plausibility thing. There's documents on the website. Go to the archives, deciphering.tv. The system's up and running. This is the DOM document. This is the torsion field interstellar communications. I'm not playing games. This is, people say if stuff was happening, right? If stuff was going on, people would say something, right? I agree with that.
They ain't fucking saying nothing.
Right. So I'm that guy. I'm saying something. Right. So I don't know if anybody's seen Steven Crowder out there. I like that guy. He's funny. Right. Does good stuff. He does that. If you this changed my mind. Well, you know what? I've been to the South Pole Station. I've seen the nefarious mind control technology that exists. Change my mind. I'm trying to help people by letting them know what's going on. And I'm getting resistance, not from you, sir.
No.
But for 2 years, I'm trying to do my best to get this information out with supposed researchers on the topic of Antarctica and South Pole Station and UFOs and what the government's up to. But boy, do I get the door slammed in my face a lot. It's really interesting from my perspective. A lot of these podcasts out there, right? A lot of people think that these podcasts are like a one-man band putting these shows together. And I can't tell you how many times I show up to what I think is just a one-man band, and it turns out it's a whole production crew. People don't realize what exists, right? When they get on YouTube, they have no idea that a lot of these podcasts are actually the same factions I was mentioning earlier. And they're investing in the dissemination of the information as they want it to be.
Nefarious.
And welcome to the information superhighway, folks. It works in both directions, both friend and foe.
Correct.
And our foes are taking your tax dollars and spending billions of it on false information because under the Obama administration, the NDAA was signed. And that made it legal again, because it had been made illegal, but now it's currently legal again for the U.S. government to subsidize the news. So guess what, folks? Ever since then, you're getting paid propaganda from every direction because they can. Like, imagine, so you got a show going on, right? Probably on a shoestring budget, I imagine. Imagine if all of a sudden Uncle Sam came over and was like, "Hey, man, here's $500,000 a year. Do you think that might help your show out and boost some numbers, get you a bigger audience, get you more attention?" That's all that's going on.
They would
Uncle
never
Sam
do that.
can now pick and choose which storylines they invest in.
I
know they can't do it to you, but I'm just saying it's happening in the world around us.
I know
it's happening everywhere around us.
We know it is.
The majority of people have no idea the shills that are in the mix.
These are fucking sellout people.
I've been contacted by folks behind the scenes, and we've gone to blows basically before ever getting on air because they were shills. They wanted me to align and basically take my story and make it jive with theirs. I'm not about that. So therefore, I'm not on these big channels with the big names, and because I won't play ball with their bullshit.
Eric, let's talk about Admiral Byrd for a minute and go back into history a little while for a minute. The interview was years ago where Admiral Byrd was sitting there and he did an interview about Antarctica and the resources. Okay, where the military would have, as he said it, interest. What was he talking about, Eric?
He was talking about the continent of Antarctica that he'd actually been to, first and foremost. Let's make that very clear. I'm in no position to argue with anything that Admiral Byrd said because, A, I respect people that have actually been to the ice. There's nothing that I know from the ice that is contrary to anything that he's ever said. I think people should study very much every syllable that man has ever spoken, but not take it at face value from people who weren't there and their bogus interpretations, because people try to take the words of heroes and make it a line for their cause. I don't want to hear what someone told you Admiral Byrd said and therefore led you by the nose. If anybody's interested in Admiral Byrd, go back to the source, listen to everything that he said, and learn that. And then take that and apply it to other people that are talking about what's going on that have actually been there. And let's get the shenanigans out of this equation. Byrd had made mention of oases I can't speak of flora and fauna myself or direct firsthand experiences with people I know, but I can speak of lack of ice. There are areas known as the dry valleys, and my roommate and some other folks that I've met have actually been to those areas, and it's really unknown. You know, that there's ice in all these other areas, and certainly they go there, they research, they discover, but it doesn't really make sense why these areas are devoid of the ice that's present everywhere else. It's a very peculiar continent. I can't even begin in a short conversation to tell you how odd Antarctica is. I mean, it's just, it is. We would oftentimes just joke, I mean, about how backwards certain things are. Mark Twain said back in the day, there's lies, there's damn lies, and then there's statistics. And the vast majority of the stuff that people see in the media today is statistics and manipulations thereof. There's no problem with global warming. There's no problem in Antarctica with temperature rise. As a matter of fact, the temperatures are getting colder and colder. There's no problem with glaciers melting. They're actually getting bigger and stronger. And that's why they're cracking off into the ocean. But most people don't understand that because they believe the lies that are being pumped out by academia, which is bought and paid for. The science that everybody says we're supposed to trust is some of the most bogus information on the face of the earth. I'm the voice of truth for Antarctica against the entire global Antarctica investment machine. It's me versus that. There's an entire global industry that's bought and paid for that's trying to manipulate your minds as to what's going on in Antarctica proper and what's also going off-world. I'm here to tell you that system's lying to you. Controlling the narrative. This is contemporarily the ufology UAP issue, is they want every discussion about Antarctica to be reduced to UFOs and UAP and blah, 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 because they already control the narrative. They don't want me coming outside of the margins of this conversation to say what's really going on. That it's not just that, oh, I mean, not for nothing. Here's the controlled narrative, right? We're at a spot in society right now where everybody's looking for disclosure and they're looking to the U.S. government for the truth.
Yeah,
I mean,
they'll never get it.
This is lunacy at this point, but this is what I'm up against. And they want to take the word of those liars over folks like me, which seem to be few and far between to begin with, because look how well received we are when we come out with our experiences. People go, well, that's not what the government's saying. Well, no shit. Dr. James Giordano, who has more accreditations than I could even begin to imagine when it comes to consciousness, hypnosis, all of the above. You get a kick out of this guy. All right. So Dr. James Giordano in 2018 went to the War Institute to speak to the cadets at West Point to discuss with them the weapons of war that they will be dealing with in the battlefield with their troops. And in this conversation, he was discussing directed energy weapons, mind control, and viruses as weapons. What we've witnessed for the last 2 years was war.
Mm-hmm. Biologically. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. It is war by a new definition. And the powers that be have learned that in this instance of war, unlike other previous instances, we don't need to be informed. We've since learned that World War II, the whole Depression era, rationing, and we got to be in the movement, and, this all, we got to hold on to the rubber supply, and this is as scarce. That was all manufactured. Mm-hmm. There was no scarcity at the time, but it was intended to make the civilian population feel like they were in the fight. So we were all in this together. It was propaganda. So the only thing they're doing in this war, which they could have done in that war, but they chose not to, was they're just choosing not to incorporate us in the conversation. They didn't have to in World War II. They just chose to. Mm-hmm. They could have chose not to. So now we're just in a circumstance where they chose not to. We're at war. There's world war going on, folks. And they just chose to not inform us. Look in the mirror.
You're looking at it. Yeah.
Look in the mirror. That's the white hat. And that's the effectiveness of a white hat, is whatever you're doing. That's what a white hat is. Go look in the mirror, draw a white hat over your head in the mirror, and then assess yourself. Are you content with your effort as a white hat?
Mm-hmm. I get it. I get it.
Without that, we're going to lose, because the black hats are very organized. They know who they are, and they're working together.
Knowing you're probably familiar with the Bilderberg group.
Yes, I did plumbing in the building that they did in Glen Cove, which was across the street from the Russian spy post that got busted, that I also did the plumbing for. I'm familiar with multiple factions and organizations. The Bilderbergs is pretty nefarious.
Project Looking Glass.
Mm-hmm.
I knew nothing about this technology until I was told about this project.
Yep.
And like I said, he's also shared with me that the Bilderberg group, okay, these chosen bloodlines, these chosen families have had this technology for quite some time.
Correct.
Okay. So they already know nefariously what's in my head and your head to go up against them.
First and foremost, this gets right back to the whole conversation that I had before, directed energy weapons and mind control. If you don't know what's going on, this activity in your brain of being scanned, then you're just being observed, and they can absolutely learn you and make assessments and predictions on the future that will very rapidly become very accurate, because you don't know this is going on. This is why I'm discussing with you what I'm discussing with you, sir, and to everybody else out there. Pay attention to what's going on. They're all in your head. They're already doing this. Literally. This is literally what I'm saying. So because most people don't know what's going on, they're being observed, assessed, right? And they think simply nowadays, right, that their weaponized technology device that they carry on their hip, colloquially known as a cell phone, they think is simply listening to the words and conversations that are spoken. What if it's deeper than that, folks? What if from day one, right? Everybody talks about, oh, when 5G comes, the cell phones will be able to read our minds. Guess what, folks? They've been doing it since day one. Holy shit. You got lied to again. What do you know? So they haven't just been listening to what's been coming out of your mouth and going back and forth between you and your friends' ears. They've been on the down low, paying attention to your thoughts and acting accordingly and affecting your stream and AIing the shit out of you for decades. This is how people can invest and mold an entire society to the highest bidder. You're a bunch of sheep. And you're about to get harvested.
Damn it.
But the white hats are going to save you. So just have a beer, watch Monday Night Football. Everything's great because you don't have anything to worry about, because all the good guys are going to get the bad guys for you. How come the powers that be aren't screaming from the hills about proper nutrition and what we eat? Because that's like, I don't know, 99.99999% of your health situations, folks, is what you eat or the poison they sell you. Take your pick.
Mm-hmm.
Learn to eat food or the poison they sell you. So like right off the bat, here's problems in the world is they attack you physically by selling you poison. They attack you mentally through technological systems that I'm trying to present to you that exist. This is the war that we're in. The poison food didn't just start this week, by the way. It's been out for decades. So this war is not new.